Hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of How I. Today we're talking about how I went vegan. I have been vegan for 9 years now, and I went vegan in August of 2013 after a very detailed dream that I had. Prior to that, I was a vegetarian, and this whole story I've written about on my website back in 2014 under a blog titled Vegan Year in Review. So I just printed it out for myself. And I might reference this. One thing I might just skip right to is the dream that I had, which was the catalyst to take me from vegetarian to vegan, because it was a pretty big difference in lifestyle. As a vegetarian, my motivations to go vegetarian at the time were mostly health focused. I had been in the hospital with kind of a near death experience, and I had a catheter in me for about a week. And basically, when I got out of the hospital, I had realized that my lifestyle was unhealthy. I have written and recorded videos about. I called one video the Catheter Diaries. I was in my 20s. But mostly, to be honest, the reasons that I went vegetarian were health related. So I started at pescatarian. So when I stopped eating, you might notice a theme here. If you follow these how I went videos, I was failing less. In stages, I went vegan basically, but the main pop was overnight. What you could call the vegan ethics kicked in overnight. Imagine in 2012 we built and then opened and still run all these years later a franchise chicken restaurant. So you would have seen me as a manager serving you food, and I did all that as a vegetarian and completely unaffected. I would slice up chicken. I knew where a lot of this stuff came from. I had worked in chicken slaughterhouses when I was younger. Not very long. I couldn't handle it. But I did it. I served the food kind of unaffected. You eat chicken, that's fine. I don't. That was kind of my approach as a vegetarian. Mostly health reasons, so I backed off my meat consumption to mostly just fish. So I was a pescatarian for a while, and then went to strictly vegetarian for the last little while, maybe the last month or two of being a pescatarian. The last few months of being a vegetarian, I had given up fish, so I was more like a vegetarian for the last few months. I was a pescatarian, I would say, for most of it. I'm saying all that because I found out later that people who occasionally eat fish are called pescatarians, but at the time, I was calling myself a vegetarian, but occasionally I would eat fish. I'm talking like maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks. My main bread and butter, my main things that I was eating were vegetables, though, and dairy products. So then, at some point, when I had been vegetarian for a while, I was considering cutting out dairy, because I think I had watched Cowspiracy or something like that. I don't know if Cowspiracy was out then, but I had been watching some documentaries about what happens in the dairy industry. But again, I was just thinking about it. But it all kind of came to a head when I had this dream, which I'll read to you. So I had this dream in August of 2013. I think it was the 15th. I went to bed like every other night and had this crazy dream. And this is it. I wrote it on TwitLonger back before you could tweet in long form. This is the dream that I had that made me go vegan. So if you're eating something, I would recommend that you stop. I'm not even going to eat anything as I read it. I had a very peculiar dream last night. I dreamt that I was looking at a dead man in something like a bathtub. And as I was wondering who he was and what he was doing in this dream, someone who worked with me or for me started playing with his arms, with his hands, taking his skin off and being disrespectful. As I looked, the bathtub that he was in turned into a deep fryer, and now there were baskets of fries and other things frying beside him and in between this man's limbs. I watched as food was served to people that had been deep fried in the very oil that this man was laying in. After a while, I couldn't see the man anymore. The oil had become dark black. I inserted a fry scoop into the oil to feel around for his body parts, but what was left was so charred and black that it was just falling apart as I touched it. As I stood in my dream, I was absolutely disgusted to think that anyone would serve, let alone eat anything that was cooked in the same oil that a dead man was deep frying in. That was a dream. I woke up feeling very sick. I didn't eat anything solid until 6 p.m. of the same day. So almost a full day. I skipped breakfast, I skipped lunch, and I didn't get much of an appetite back until 6. So the next day I was pondering the dream and I wrote, as I ponder the dream now a day later, I realize it may have been more symbolic to me personally because I have been a vegetarian. And I wrote, I sometimes eat fish, so I'm not a Puritan vegetarian. I will sometimes eat food that has been cooked beside animal products, which now I know that this is called cross-contamination. Back then, that phrase wasn't used. I will sometimes eat food that has been cooked beside animal products. There are certain animals that I've put my foot down to, though, like pork. Pork is just gross smelling once you stop eating it. I have to admit that up until this dream, I've never felt any conviction about eating vegetables cooked beside chicken or beef products or in the same oil. But the lesson of the dream remains clear to me now. If you wouldn't eat a French fry that was fried in the same oil as a dead human, why will you think nothing of eating the same fry out of an oil cooked beside another species, not even your own? Because we're speciesist, we think murdering animals and consuming their decaying flesh is okay because we're higher on the food chain. I've never been a zealot vegetarian, but this dream I had last night honestly turned my stomach. Pun intended. So that is the crazy dream I had. Here is the vegan year in review and the restaurants I had been to and my thoughts about going vegan at the time. After a year's worth of being vegan. So that is not an exaggeration. That is basically what happened. I had this crazy dream. I woke up and I felt like my stomach was just a burning nauseous pit, and I couldn't think, or I couldn't fathom to eat anything basically. And I decided I'm not even going to bother trying until I'm hungry again, and that just happened to be in the evening later that day. So I would say in retrospect that the vegan ethics kicked in overnight. So all of a sudden, I started caring and connecting with and not ignoring my empathy and my connection to animals. So previous to that, I could serve food at our restaurants and not be affected by it. And after that dream and how the ethics kicked in overnight, I have never been able to do that since. I have never been able to serve chicken to anybody from our restaurant since. I've never been able to just hand people things and not be affected by it. So the vegan ethics kicked in overnight is what I'm saying. Like I'm a guy, I'm 41, but like don't ask me to serve you chicken without it emotionally affecting me. I'm not hiding or denying the fact that I get I get emotionally rattled, and rightly so, by the systematic enslavement and exploitation of animals. And so nowadays, in 2022, we have all these vegan documentaries like Cowspiracy, Seaspiracy. You have undercover video footage. You have people protesting at, Fearman Pork Slaughterhouse in Burlington. And so I worked near Fearman's actually for about 5 years, so I would see these slaughterhouse workers. And at some point, I used to say, not the slaughterhouse workers, but yeah, I would see them too, but I would see the protesters. And at some point, I was like, I'm going to go join them one day. And then I learned a little bit about Toronto Pig Save and the people who run it. And so I never joined Toronto Pig Safe, but I have protested alongside them and held up signs. Of course, me and our family were very saddened to hear when Regan the vegan, when Regan was senselessly run over by a truck a few years ago, 5 years ago. We were all pretty devastated, and we've since been to give our respects and pay our respects. Yeah, vegan protesters getting run over, definitely a crazy time. And I've met some neat people there, and I've met a lot of vegans since. But basically, I've been vegan now for 9 years, so what started out as maybe a challenge is not a challenge anymore because of all the meat alternatives like Beyond Meat and all the veggie burgers, all the veggie sausages, all the Daiya cheese, Daiya yogurt, Daiya milk. So there's lots of vegan alternatives out there. But when I went vegan in 2013, honestly, I was eating salads with beans, chana masala. I went to the grocery store and bought salads with strawberries and walnuts on them. And as far as drinks goes, I was drinking a lot of water, drinking a lot of smoothies, and I started drinking black coffee or black tea. I love to have walnuts on my salads with strawberries back then. And I didn't have any vegan friends. I met my first vegan guy friend probably, it was through work, and it was about 3 or 4 years after being vegan. I met him in Hamilton. His name is Alistair. He was my first guy vegan friend, and I think right now he is running Rise Above in Hamilton, which is a vegan wing place, or they might have renamed it, but you could look him up if you're around Hamilton. Democracy on Locke Street he used to work at, and then he like an operating partner, and then now I think he's at Rise Above, but they might have made a different name for it because they specialize now in wings and beer. And I thought it was cool that I met a vegan who, was drinking beer and hanging out and eating basically junk food, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm a vegan." And I was like, "How are you a vegan? Like, it doesn't seem right." And he was like, "Yeah, I just don't eat animals, bro. Like, what's the big deal? I don't eat animals. Doesn't mean I don't like beer." I mean, I had been sober for a while, but to meet a guy like that as your first vegan, it was pretty cool for me. Even still. Alistair, I love you, buddy. Where you been? Anyway, that's how I went vegan. A crazy dream that propelled me into vegan ethics overnight back in 2013. And then I just took the hard path of just salads and, whatever. I'm going to be vegan. Whatever. My approach back then was, I don't know what I'm going to eat, but it's not going to be dead animals or dead animal products. I'm going to eat salad. Whatever's vegan, that's what I'm eating, okay? So, like, if somebody offered me a banana, or if I had a banana, okay, I can eat that. It's not a dead animal, it's not a dead animal product. That was basically, it was like an elimination diet overnight. Nowadays, I mean, you look in my fridge, you look in my freezer, we have, it's like, we have ice cream, we have junk food, we have candy to the wazoo, we've got Beyond Meat sausages. We've got so much junk food. There's no question about, like, we're not lacking in any department. Back then it was hard to find good bread. Not anymore. Lots of bread. That's how I went vegan. Very thankful that I met Desiree in 2015, who was pescatarian, vegetarian kind of at the time, went vegan very quickly after she met me. The kids are vegan, and I'm not forcing my veganism on them. It's the opposite. That Tyler, our 9-year-old, convinced his mom to go vegan by another name. I guess they didn't know it was veganism. And Caden went vegan when he was 4. Again, we're not lacking in our house. We have ice cream, like I said, we have sausages. There's no reason not to be vegan at our house. If you eat at our house, you're eating vegan because everything in our house is vegan. We moved into this house that we're in 2018 and just said, everything is going to be vegan in the house. Easy. That's how I went vegan. I hope that helps. Follow me on Twitter at adamjosh.com. I'm going to link to this article in the description of this video so that you can read my 1 year in review of how I went vegan back from 2014. Have a great day. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye.